Hi, Sydney. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My name's Amy. You can take a seat if you'd like. So I'm going to be going over a session with you today. Basically, I'll be your counselor for this whole entire hour session that we have. So first, what I want to go over is basically some informed consent. I just want to let you know that everything here today is going to stay confidential between you and I. Unless you talk about things such as abuse, like child abuse, elder abuse, or things like harming yourself or someone else, then I have the right to tell someone about it.
Okay.
So if you'd like, you can just read this over a little bit to get a better idea, and then just sign and date it, please. Okay, so what brings you here today?
Actually, I was recommended to come in from one of my friends. I've had a little bit of a drinking. I don't want to say problem because I don't think it's a problem, but I drink, and she thinks that it's a problem, so she said that I should come in.
Okay. So do you have any idea why your friend might think it's a problem?
Well, I guess I can see it through her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a bad family situation that's come up,
Okay.
and I just don't really have anything to do with myself recently. About I would say about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was in a bad car accident,
Okay.
and I injured my spine,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't been able to work, so I've been at home most of the time, and I have one son, and I recently I got divorced from my husband just a couple months ago,
Okay.
and he's claimed custody of our son, so now I'm home by myself, and I can't work, and I'm by myself all the time, so it's obvious that, like, obviously I'm going to drink a little bit more than usual, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow, that must be a hard situation for you. So do you think that maybe the family issues that you brought up before, what I heard, you've been having like hard family times with your husband taking custody of your son. Do you think that might be taking a toll on how much you've been drinking?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, can you really blame me? Like, my whole family has kind of, I feel like they've abandoned me almost.
Okay.
And my husband, who we started dating when we were in high school, and we've been high school sweethearts forever. It's been like, I think it's coming up on our 14th year together.
Wow.
And well, I guess not anymore, but we it kind of sucks that he's been with me through all that. And as soon as my accident started,
Mm-hmm.
I've been home all the time, right? So if I have one or two drinks, then whatever. But I feel that the more I was drinking, the more he just would leave at night and not come home till late. He would be out with his friends, and God knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
And I would be stuck at home with my son, and that just made me want to drink more, right?
Yeah.
And I don't really see most of my other family members. And for those couple months after my car accident, I haven't been able to get out, and I think that has really impacted me being able to.
For sure.
Yeah.
And even not being able to get out of the house, you don't get those things like vitamin D, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't get the endorphins from the sun, and like you don't get the happiness of being outside, right?
Absolutely.
So do you think that maybe your drinking has affected that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone's bound to the house for months on end, like you would fall into a depression, right? And I've I've gone into the doctor, and he's prescribed me antidepressants,
Mhm.
and I guess being on antidepressants and drinking alcohol too, it kind of alters your mood a little
Yeah,
bit.
for sure.
So And it's really hard as of now. And having my son through all those years, he's 8,
Wow.
and not being able to be with him anymore has kind of been a factor. And I feel like since my husband is taking custody, that I failed him as a mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And haven't been able to see him as much. And it's just been really hard so far. And I don't feel like I don't have that support group that I need.
For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I'm getting from what you're saying is that you feel like you failed your son.
Yeah.
And that you feel like you maybe even aren't good enough of a mom for him, right? Like that's what you're feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you talked to anybody about this besides myself? Like other friends or confided in anybody about your emotions?
Well, I've talked to that one friend who referred me to here, and she's been a really great support. She's on workman's comp right now, and she also had an injury related with her work, so she's off too. So we've had that time to be able to get together, and that's really great. But I need my family back, right? And that's what I'm striving towards, and I want to get back with my husband, but at the same time, I feel like he's turned on me from taking custody of my son, and I resent him a little bit towards it.
Absolutely. And I think that is completely normal to feel like you're upset and you are angry about losing your son and your husband taking him from you, right? And have you talked to anybody about having, like, being able to have shared custody?
Yeah, that's what I want to strive towards. So I feel like at first I said I know like my drinking problem isn't a problem, right? But I think that in order to get that shared custody, I need to have my drinking gone, right?
For sure.
And I feel like I'm just stress built up on stress on stress on stress.
Yeah.
I can't get out of the house. I can't work, so that kind of creates a financial situation, right?
Absolutely.
And I haven't been able to work, and I haven't been able to get the right amount of money, right?
Yeah.
So it's just bumming me out, and I don't know what to do now.
Absolutely.
So it's just really hard, and I had family members and that friend give me a little bit of financial help, but they can only do so much, right?
For sure.
So I feel like I'm kind of just a slug, right? Just there.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from what you're saying right now is that you feel stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad I'm understanding
Yeah.
there. So what are some things that maybe like a step in the right direction? Well, like I said, you are in a step in the right direction because you're here talking to me today, which is really great. So what do you think would be maybe a first step that we could take?
Maybe I could think about. Well, I said that I don't have that kind of social support, right? So maybe getting out more and going to more events and like things just like even going to the mall would be awesome. Like
for sure.
Something. I just need to get out of the house, and maybe if I visit family or talk to other people besides that one friend, maybe it would help a little bit.
For sure. How much would you say that you drink on average each day?
Well, it kind of varies. At first, it started out when I come home from work, I would have probably just like a glass of wine or like a mixed drink.
Yeah.
And since my injury, I found that it's switched. It's a big switch. I switched from wine to alcohol, and then just from the bottle.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe I would have one of those like 26 bottles.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe about half or 3/4 of that a day. Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel embarrassed about admitting that too because I know that's a big amount. And like hearing myself say it, it's embarrassing. And that's kind of hard for me to admit to other people too. So I kind of like I lie a little bit when I tell them, but
For sure.
yeah.
I just want you to know that when you're here, you don't have to feel embarrassed, okay? I'm not judging, and I'm here to help, okay? Um, so do you think that the cause of that might have been like starting off with your accident, right? So do you think that being inside because of your accident sort of was where it started to put you in sort of a rut?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before my accident, I never really liked to drink. Like even in high school, it was just me and my husband, well, ex-husband now, but we didn't really go to parties and we didn't really drink. And ever since the accident, it hasn't been the same. And I just increasingly it got worse and worse and worse. And I noticed while like after the accident happened, my husband had stopped talking to me and looking at me the same way. And I've had a cane that I used through it the last couple months, and he hasn't looked at me like wow, my wife's beautiful kind of thing. And ever since that, and that's kind of hurt a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our romantic life isn't that great.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, I'm sure maybe not being able to feel that can really hurt, you know? Because for at one point in your life, you had somebody who was always telling you that you're beautiful and you're perfect to them, right? And as soon as that's gone, I can see like how much it can really hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it might have something to do with like not having anybody to open up to, because at one point in time, maybe your husband was somebody that you would want to talk to. Do you think that might be
Yeah.
a situation?
Oh, absolutely. My husband and I were not only married and in a relationship, but we were best friends too.
Okay.
And when he left, it felt like I left. My best friend was gone.
Okay.
And I didn't have him anymore. And as much as I feel that he's against me, I want him back in my life. Okay. And I do, and I know that he's there to talk, but I don't want him to be my counselor. I want him to be my husband.
For sure.
And it's kind of hard too with my 8-year-old. Yeah. And I don't want him to. I didn't want him to be from a broken home to begin with, and now that's what has happened.
Yeah. And
I don't want him to go to school and be like, I'm going to my dad's house after kind of thing. I want to be, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is now, and I feel like I ruined his childhood a little bit for him. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your husband used to be your best friend, and that you could confide in him in just about anything, right? So thus far, how would you explain your relationship with your husband as of right now?
As of right now, I feel like when we left, he left. I can still talk to him, and I can tell him things, and he's going to be there, but he doesn't want to be with me. Okay. And it doesn't seem like he wants to get back together, and I really do. And right now, it seems like I need to show him that I'm worthy of coming back to the family. For sure. And repairing what was there. Absolutely. And I'm just confused as to how I'm going to be able to do that with not having a job now, and I don't want him to feel like I'm a financial burden as well. For sure. Being there. And I want my son to look up and be proud, and when his friends ask him what his mommy does kind of thing, he says nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So right now I feel a little bit confused, and I don't know what to do. But yeah. And so I think for the next step, you said that like what can we do now kind of thing. Maybe maybe getting rid of alcohol in the house, or maybe I could write down how many drinks I have or something
For
like
sure,
that.
yeah,
Or,
you're totally taking steps in the right direction.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I just have one question for you, actually. You made a comment about how you wanted to get better for your family, right? And you wanted to get better to get your husband back. But where do you stand on getting better for yourself?
I guess I've never really looked at it like that. And you're right. Like, I don't like getting up at 3 in the afternoon kind of thing because I'm so hungover. I don't like waking up sick every day, and I've noticed that my health has absolutely deteriorated since I started drinking. I noticed I don't look how I once was, and I do need to get better for myself, and I know that I do, and I'm gonna do it.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna do it. I don't know how, and I'm kind of a little bit scared of the unknown. If that makes sense.
So what are some of the differences that you've noticed? You mentioned that you don't look the way that you want to look or the way that you once did. So what are some differences that you see, and that what would you want to like? What would you want to look like?
Yeah. Well, I want back how I. Well, I'm in my late 30s, right? So, I guess I can't say I want to look like I did as a teenager again, but I notice my looks are different. I notice I don't want to talk to people as much. I notice my financial pattern has dropped. I notice my relationship with my family overall has just been terrible, and my parents have both they've cut off connection with me, and ever since the beginning they wanted me to cut back, and I said, yep, I cut back, and they know that I'm not, and so I can see their frustration, and they've stopped talking to me, and that's gonna hurt too.
Yeah. So it sounds to me that you wish that your parents were really there.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me that you really miss them. Why do you think that they were the ones to cut off communication with you as well? Because why do you think that they weren't there to hand you some support?
Yeah. I feel like they're frustrated with me.
Okay.
They're frustrated.
Yeah.
And when I see that frustration, I want to be they're good parents to me, and I want to be that good parent to my kid too.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's not how it is now.
Yeah.
And I want to get that back. And so one of my goals is building back all the relationships that I once had.
For sure.
And I just need to figure out how to do that.
Okay. Yeah. So, in order to take that step, so you said that I'm going to go back to the looks, because I think this meeting, the first step towards getting your family back and getting that life back, and maybe even starting a new one, would be all starting in the root of yourself, right?
Love myself.
Yeah, and starting to figure out what you want and what you can do, right? So when you said that your looks are different, which is obviously subject to happen once you start getting older, right? But what part of your looks do you feel like you're unhappy with?
I think, I've gained weight since I started drinking.
Okay.
And my skin is just dry and wrinkly, just terrible.
Okay.
And my hair is gone to frizz, and I just don't love myself the way that I did. And yeah, I don't know how to change it. Okay. Yeah.
So when you get up and you look in the mirror in the morning, what do you feel? What do you think?
I'm sad.
Yeah?
I'm sad with what I see. And I know I'm better than it.
Yeah.
I know I can do better. And I'm disappointed in it. I think I drink more when I think about that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I look in the mirror and see how much I hate myself for what I've done. I'm the only one who can change it, and I've done this to myself.
Okay.
So I think when I look in the mirror, I'm just depressed, and that makes me just drink more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you drink more, do you think that makes you feel even more sad?
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of those emotions start to come out, right? As opposed to when you're sober, when you're drunk and when you're sober. When do you think you talk to people about these issues more often? Like when you're drunk or when you're sober?
I think I drink to hide those emotions,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think when I joke about it, it makes it easier to talk about, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So, and usually when I'm with my friend, the one who
Yeah.
told me to come in, I'm usually a couple drinks deep before I start talking about my family and that kind of thing. So it's kind of hard to talk about. But yeah.
Well, it sounds to me you have a really good friend.
Yeah, she's great.
To help you out and to be there to support you, right?
Yeah.
What was, do you think, her main concern when she said to you, do you want to come to counseling?
I think my health.
Yeah.
My family, I like to say, is my number one priority, but I know that my health is,
Okay.
and right now it's not looking great.
For sure.
And I know all the side effects of like kidney failure and everything.
Absolutely.
And drinking 3/4 of a bottle isn't going to suffice.
For sure.
So I think she was definitely looking out for my health.
Yeah.
And I need to start looking out for it more. And I should have been the one to recognize it.
Totally. And sometimes it's really hard to be able to recognize it yourself, you know. People in your life start pointing things out a lot sooner than you do.
Yeah.
And that's usually the case, you know. Sometimes, especially when you're upset or especially when you're stuck, you
Yeah.
know, you don't always notice those things because you get so comfortable in one position.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, so you brought up a lot about your friend and a lot about your husband and how you wanted your family back.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of a conversation about your son.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, it's okay.
So how do you think that have you talked to him maybe about how he feels about this or what his thoughts are?
You know what? I haven't, and maybe that's something I should do. And as much as he's only 8, he's at that stage where he sees things and he reflects what he sees. You know
For
what I mean?
sure. Yeah.
And I haven't sat. All he knows is mommy likes her wine kind of thing, and that's something I should sit down and talk to him about, and that's something that I should also maybe talk to my husband about, seeing my son more and being able to talk to him about that kind of thing.
For sure.
And I want him to know that I'm there to support him through it and not just be a taboo part of his life that he doesn't talk about.
For sure.
So yeah, that's definitely a good point. I should talk to my son more about that kind of thing.
So yeah, what I see is that you have come to the realization that you'd like to talk to him.
Yeah.
In your mind, how do you feel like that conversation would go, or how would you like that conversation to go?
I want him to feel good that he knows I'm there for him, and I'm scared. I think I'm scared mostly that he's gonna be sad with me and not understand.
For sure.
And that's easy for an 8-year-old to not understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So I just want him to know that I love him and that I do want to spend more time with him, and I do want to quit.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that your son would probably appreciate that, you know? I think that he would, as much as he's only 8, I find kids pick up on more than you think they do. You know?
Exactly.
And I think he does understand. I mean, it might be a little hard for him, right? But I think he would understand Do you think that this is something you can do right away, or do you think that's something that we would wait a little bit before we did?
I think maybe if I work on little things at a time and getting myself in check before I go. And like right now, I'm drinking a couple glasses a day, right?
For sure.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
But I want to be at the state where I'm confident in myself and I'm able to go the day without having a drink before I go and be with him for the day.
Yeah.
And I need to have that relationship built with my husband before I go in there.
Absolutely. So do you think that the relationship with your husband should come first, or do you think that the talk with your son should come before your husband? Like, which one do you think you feel most ready for?
I think that maybe if I have a sit-down talk with my husband and see how that goes.
For sure.
And then you also mentioned maybe a joint custody scenario.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's something I'll talk to my husband about after I try to get myself in check. And then from there, move on to building that relationship back up with my son. I just don't want him to feel that I've abandoned him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that your son sees it as abandonment, you know. I think he sees the issues that are going on, probably. And I think he sees that, like, you guys have hit a rough patch. And I think in order for you to sit down and talk to him, that shows a lot of strength, you know. It does. And it shows a lot of willpower, too. It shows how much you care. Because it's hard. It's hard to sit down and talk to somebody about, like, an issue. It's hard to confront them, right? And I bet it was even hard for you to come and sit down and talk with me today.
Yeah, it was. No. Well, I think for now, I think I know, after talking about it and putting everything on the table, I do have a problem. And I do want to change it for my family. And not only for my family, but for myself.
Yeah.
And I think the first step is getting rid of that alcohol. Maybe if worst comes to worst and I can't stop, maybe going to a rehab facility or maybe AA or something like that. Taking little steps kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that a rehab facility would be appropriate, or do you think that you could use some social supports, like just even in the community? Do you think that that those social supports, like talking to some people that are going through the same, like similar situations, would maybe help you?
I think so. I think that since my accident, since I'm home by myself, I don't have that social support as I did when I was working and had my employees that I was allowed to talk to, kind of thing. And like I haven't had that, so I've been stuck at home and I haven't been able to at least vent to someone. So I think that I need people who understand.
For sure.
And I think that going to AA kind of thing or rehab would just be a good environment. And I think getting out more would be best.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have any pets or anything? Like a dog?
I have a cat.
You have a cat?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I was going to say, like, do you take your cat outside at all?
Yeah.
Or,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's an outdoor cat.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe one thing, like, I know there's, like, little cat leashes and stuff. Like, maybe, like, the first step is doing something small, you know? So, maybe taking your cat out for a little walk. Just getting yourself outside for a little bit, you know? And even just starting off with that small step, it's still a small step, you know? And it's still a step in the right direction.
I used to do all sorts of things like that. I was on a jogging team with the community, and we would run 5K every day.
Wow.
And this was before my son and everything like that. And I loved it. And I loved my running girls that I always go out with. And I think I just lost contact, and
Yeah.
I kind of miss it.
So what I'm hearing that you're telling me is that you miss the interaction, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you miss also the exercise as well, and maybe making it help you feel a little bit better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, I used to be in awesome shape, and ever since I've had my son and I've started drinking, like, it's just gone downhill, and I want that back.
Okay. So do you think that maybe joining back with the running club, or even getting back in contact with some of the ladies you used to like run with or talk with, maybe getting into that kind of like community event would maybe benefit you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I really miss them, so.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
so.
That can be another step, right? So like looking after yourself. So being able to get outside and communicate with people, because communication, I see like with what you've been telling me that the communication has been lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you feel like you don't really have a whole lot of people in your network.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe reaching out to some of those people and helping them, getting them to help you get back into some shape, right? Do you think that you'd be okay with that, or like what are your worries, or like?
I think so. Well, we've recently moved, but we used to live in that community with those ladies, and they're kind of on the how do I describe them? As on like the higher social scale,
Okay.
and like
Yeah.
like American Pie life kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think that, and I do love them though. So I think that I do want to get back in contact with them, and I do really like them.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ready to tell them about my drinking problem.
Absolutely, and that's okay, because we don't expect you to jump right in and tell people right away, right? But I think that you have a good head on your shoulders when it comes to getting that social communication and getting that, like getting yourself out of the house, right? And do you think that is probably like one of the best steps for you at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think that I just by talking about it out loud, and I feel like now I have sort of a guide on what I need to do now, and the first step I think is getting that social group back that
absolutely.
I need, and getting out of the house more kind of thing. And I think that's something I can do short term, and
for sure.
Until I figure out the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like, do you feel nervous or anything like that with getting back into a social setting, or how does that
a little bit
affect you?
I just, do you know how you call alcohol liquid courage?
Yeah.
I find that I don't know how to get back in there kind of thing, especially with people I haven't talked to in so long.
For sure.
And they're going to be asking me like, oh, so what are you up to kind of thing, and I'm just scared to tell them that like, I don't work, my husband divorced me, he has my kid kind of thing, and
yeah.
I'm just scared that they're going to judge me.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe instead of taking a huge step into people you feel are judgy, what about with your friend that referred you here today? Maybe you can do things like go for a walk with her.
Yeah.
And that way, like, you're not having that intimidation factor, right? Of like everybody worried about people judging you or that sort of stuff. Maybe you can pick that one friend that you know knows everything already, and you don't have to worry about breaking the news to her. And maybe you guys can go for walks or just do things to get yourself out of the house. Just because you don't have to worry about what she thinks, because she already knows, you know, and she knows that you're trying to better yourself. So that way, if things are unsuccessful, you have a shoulder to cry on right away. You know. Do you think that would maybe be a better plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then work your way up to, like with the ladies, right? Like in a couple weeks, maybe that's where we could get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So, do you think a social group with people who sort of like an AA group would maybe be a benefit.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think getting out at nights kind of thing instead
Okay.
of staying in by myself would be really good.
Okay. So I'm going to look into some AA meetings. That way you can have sort of a social support.
Yeah.
And then I can schedule a meeting
Okay.
for next week
Okay.
for you and I to come and talk again if you'd like that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
No,
so
perfect.
just to
Great.
recap, what are 3 goals that we can work on this week?
This week I can get rid of all my alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I can connect with my friend
Yeah.
and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Go for a walk.
Absolutely.
And I can. Are there meetings starting this week?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always meetings.
Well, attend a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sydney, and you've made some really great progress today. So yeah, I'll schedule a meeting for next week, and we'll be in touch. Basically, next week's meeting will just be a talk about why everything was or wasn't successful.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 All right.
Perfect.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. It was
I'll
good
see you
seeing
next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.